Welcome to the Private School Leader Podcast, where private school leaders learn how to thrive and not just survive as they serve and lead their schools. I strongly believe that it is possible to have a long and happy and fulfilling career as a private school leader. And my passion is to help you figure out exactly how to do just that, right here on the Private School Leader Podcast. And I'm your host, Mark Minkus. So I want to start today's episode by getting you to think about a number, and that number is 90. And I want to talk about how 90% of something could be an awesome number, or it could be a terrible number. So for example, if your favorite sports team had a 90% chance of winning the championship this year, that's awesome. Or if where you live, 90% of the days are sunny. Out of 365, 90% of them are sunny. Or if when you get the parent survey results back at your school, that the parent satisfaction rate was 90%. That's awesome. But 90% can also be kind of a terrible number. So let's say that 90% of the students in your middle school have had a detention in the last 2 weeks. That sounds pretty awful. Or you have a big outdoor event like field day, and the morning of, you check the weather app and it says 90% chance of rain on the day of your big outdoor event at school. Or probably the worst thing that could happen is you're at the doctor's office and the doctor says, well, I hate to tell you this, but you have a 90% chance of blank, whatever that could be. And so the reason that I'm talking about the number 90% is because over the last 3 years, I've had conversations with about 200 private school leaders, and that's through coaching clients. It's through the PSL Pro membership, live meetups. It's through talking to people who reach out, who listen to the podcast. Most of the time it's on Zoom. Every once in a while it's through email correspondence. But I've talked to around 200 private school leaders who I've asked a couple of questions. And I'm going to tell you what those questions are in just a minute. But what I want you to hear right now is that in all of those conversations over the past 3 years, there are two big things, two big problems that keep coming up a lot. And I mean almost all of them have both of these problems, not just one. They have both problems at the same time. So on today's episode of the Private School Leader Podcast, we're going to talk about we're going to talk about the two problems that 90% of school leaders face, and more importantly, how to fix them. So before we jump into today's topic, just a quick question for you. Have you ever had a parent follow you home from school? Come into your house, sit down at the kitchen table, sit down on the couch, sit down on the edge of your bed, and you're like, yikes, because you probably thought of that parent, and you're like, there's no way I want them following me home. Unfortunately, sometimes parents follow you home and live rent-free in your head, and you can't stop thinking about how upset they were, or the meeting that you have tomorrow, or how am I going to make them happy because they have just such unreasonable demands. And so there are times when parents follow you home from school. Well, I want to put a stop to that. I used to be that way, and then I decided I didn't want that anymore. And so that's why I created Parent Academy, and I can give you a step-by-step framework that will help you go from feeling stressed and anxious to feeling confident and calm when you work with the parents at your school. And over a 33-year career in private school leadership, I built successful relationships with thousands of parents, and I've taken everything that I know and packaged that into an online course. And the first 4 modules are for you as the leader, and then there are 2 45-minute webinars that are teacher PDs, and it's well over 50 schools now that have used these teacher PDs on the August back to school in service or during their PD days throughout the school year, and the feedback has been excellent. And those PDs come with a printable notebook and guided notes and discussion questions, but that's not even the main focus that I have when I'm talking to you about Parent Academy today. I want it to be that you learn how to get these parents to stop following you home from school. So if you want to do that, go to theprivateschoolleader.com/Parent Academy and check it out, and let me teach you how to have those parents stop following you home. And then, since I'm talking about parents, I want to give you a free gift. It's called the 7 Steps to Having Successful Meetings with Upset Parents. And this is an 11-page PDF, and I give you a step-by-step plan to have better meetings with the parents at your school, especially if those parents are upset. And I think every good coach has a game plan and every good teacher has a lesson plan, but I've seen way too many private school leaders that don't have a plan when they sit down to meet with an upset parent. And I really feel strongly that there's a right way and a wrong way to do it, and I want to give you that plan. So you can grab that free guide at theprivateschoolleader.com/meeting. That's the 7 steps to having successful meetings with upset parents. It's just free for you over at theprivateschoolleader.com/meeting. All right. So I told you that I've been talking to private school leaders over the past 3 years, and that I keep seeing that these 2 problems keep popping up, and that most private school leaders have both of these problems. All right. So I ask the people that I talk to, the leaders that I talk to, I say, okay, I want you to finish this sentence. I really wish that I had more time to blank. So you can think about that too. So at school, I really wish that I had more time to blank. And 90% of the leaders that I've talked to said the same thing. And they said, I really wish I had more time to be in classrooms more often, to pop in, to be, out where the kids are, to be supporting the teachers. So they want more time to be in classrooms. So that's 90% of private school leaders, in my experience, wish that they had more time to do that. And so that's a problem. That's problem number 1. Problem number 2 is I ask them to finish this sentence. The number 1 thing keeping me from being more productive is blank. The number 1 thing that's keeping me from being more productive is blank. And 90% of the people that I talked to said email inbox. Their email is the bane of their existence. Now, a lot of them did say interruptions, constant interruptions, the tyranny of the urgent, but 90% said email inbox. Now, those 2 things might not at face value seem connected, but they are absolutely connected. Because if you want to get out to classrooms more, what you need is margin. And the biggest opportunity for you to create margin in your day and in your week is how you interact with your email inbox. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break it down. First, talk a little bit about email. And I know this isn't the first time you've heard me talk about email on this podcast, but it's that important. It's that big of an obstacle. It's that big of a black hole for your productivity that we're going to talk about it. But we're going to talk about it in the context that if you can fix your relationship with your email inbox, you can create more margin. And then part 2 is that I'm going to tell you how to take that margin and use it to get into classrooms more often. So the 2 biggest problems, the 2 most common problems are connected, and I'm going to try to give you some strategies on how you can make this better for both. Okay, so the first is email. So I want to ask you a question. What is your relationship with your email inbox? And I'm emphasizing the word relationship. So I want you to think about this for a second. What is your relationship with your email inbox? So for example, when you are out in the school doing something and you come back and you are in your office and you plop down at your desk and you're kind of, what do I do? It's kind of hard to get started on a task. Do you open up email and start responding to some emails? That's what most school leaders do. Another question about your relationship. How many times a day do you check your phone, the icon for your school email on your phone? How many times a day are you checking your email inbox? If you combined your desktop or laptop and your phone from the time you woke up until the time you went to bed, how many times a day are you checking email? The number is probably way higher than you actually think it is. Okay. Another question to define your relationship with your email inbox. How often are you checking it on weeknights and on weekends? Maybe you're doing a great job. Maybe you're not checking it on weeknights or weekends hardly at all. But that's not been my experience with most school leaders, private school leaders that I talk to. Is your relationship that you're always pursuing inbox zero and you're always frustrated because inbox zero is this elusive thing that changes seconds later after you accomplish it? So the reason I keep saying the word relationship is if this was a relationship that you were in your life, okay, so let's go back to when you were younger and let's say you had a relationship with a boyfriend or a girlfriend. If you were putting into that relationship everything that you put into your, how often, how much time you spend with your email inbox, how much effort you put in, the attention that you give it, all of that stuff, okay? That's you adding to the relationship. If your email inbox was the boyfriend or girlfriend that you're thinking about from years ago, what are they bringing to the relationship? Like very, very little. Like I know that we all want to break up with our email inbox. We can't. But my point is, if this was a relationship, you'd have dumped this person long ago, because all of this time, effort, energy, attention that you're pouring into email inbox, and the tail is wagging the dog, and it has control over you, as far as what you get back from it in the way of productivity or joy or feeling productive or feeling just like you're, really accomplishing your goals, is very, very, very small. And you've heard me say that your email inbox is a chronological list of everyone else's priorities, and that's true. Everyone else's priorities are what are showing up in our email inboxes, and then what we're doing is that we're just kind of going through. And don't get me wrong, we do have to respond to our emails because that's part of the job and it's part of being a professional. But we don't have to keep doing it the way we've been doing it. And I said before that, email is like a black hole. I've also said where your email inbox is where productivity goes to die. And so just before I jump into these 3 strategies to improve your relationship with your email inbox and create some margin, I just want to ask you to give yourself a break and to believe that this is possible. Because I can hear you're like, Mark, you don't understand. I get 200 emails a day. I do understand what it's like to get 200 emails a day. But here's the thing. Of course, it is going to be difficult. But I want you to hear loud and clear that 90%, in my experience, 90% of school leaders are struggling mightily with their email inbox. So you're not alone. Number one. Number two, you have to give yourself a break, because this isn't just about you and your self-discipline. You're actually addicted to the dopamine hit that you get when you respond to a few emails, because the brain gives you a dopamine hit when you complete a task. You close a loop, you get dopamine. The brain just doesn't know the difference between a high-value task and a low-value task. And so we need that dopamine because of decision fatigue and cognitive load and the expenditure of emotional energy and physical fatigue that we have. We need the dopamine during the day. And so that just draws us to that email inbox. And so you got to give yourself a break. There's nothing wrong with you if you're living in your email inbox. But I want you to believe that this is possible, because I've seen it with my own eyes with dozens and dozens of coaching clients and Thrive Academy students that it is possible. Okay, So then let me give you 3 strategies to improve your relationship with your email inbox. All right, strategy number 1 is to create friction. And I've told this story before, but it fits perfectly, so I'm just going to tell it quickly again because it seems to resonate with a lot of podcast listeners. So 3 years ago, my oldest daughter, bought for Christmas, my wife and I, the gift of Walmart Plus. So I think it's like around $100 for the year, and you go onto the app and you order your groceries, and then a couple of hours later, they show up on your front porch, and you pay this one fee for the whole year. Now, they're not an affiliate. I don't get anything for promoting Walmart Plus. I just really find the convenience of it fantastic. Anyways, I'm getting the groceries off the front porch. I think this was last summer. And I'm putting them away in the kitchen, and I see that there's like this party size, not family size, not regular size, party size package of Oreos. Now, I love Oreos, but I can't control myself with Oreos. And I said to my wife, why are you buying a party size? Well, she said, well, because you like Oreos, which was sweet. Okay. And I told myself, okay, I'm only going to eat 3 Oreos a day. And I put it over on the counter. And what I did was I ate 3 Oreos every time I walked through the kitchen, and they were gone pretty quickly. Okay. So a couple weeks go by, let's say, and then there's another Walmart Plus order on my front porch. I bring it in, and I'm putting the groceries away, and there's another party-sized package of Oreos. And I said to my wife, what are you doing? And she's like, well, you love Oreos, clearly. Okay. So we had just decluttered our Tupperware cupboard a couple days before. And so I decided I'm going to create a little friction between me and these Oreos. And so I just, maybe 30 inches above where they were sitting on the counter with Oreo package number 1, I put them in the Tupperware cupboard and just shut the door. And then I said to myself, I'm going to eat 3 Oreos a day. And then what I did was, over the course of however long it took, I actually ate 3 Oreos a day until the Oreos were all gone. And then thankfully my wife didn't buy Oreos anymore. But what was the difference between me eating, I don't know, a couple dozen a day to eating only 3 a day? It was that I created friction intentionally. And when I would not just see it out of the corner of my eye every time I walked through the kitchen, then it didn't register for me to grab a couple of Oreos. And when I did reach for the handle on the knob on the cupboard door of the Tupperware cupboard where the Oreos were, I paused and asked myself, did you already have your 3 Oreos today? And just that pause was enough to keep me on track to only eat 3 a day. Okay, so you get the concept, but we need to create way more friction between ourselves and our email inboxes. And so the first and most important thing is to turn off notifications. Turn off notifications on your smartwatch, on your smartphone, your iPhone, your Android, whatever. Turn off notifications on your laptop or whatever. You don't need to know when you get a new email. This is incredibly important. Step 1 is to turn off all notifications. No one needs you that badly. The way they're going to get in touch with you, if they do need you urgently, isn't going to be through email anyways. They're going to call you or text you or get you on the walkie-talkie or get you on the PA system or stop by your office or get you on the phone intercom on your desk. There are like 6 different ways they're going to get in touch with you if they need you right away at school, not in your email inbox. So quit talking yourself into that and turn off notifications. So the second thing, as far as creating friction, is press the button on your phone. When your phone lights up, how many swipes is your icon for your school email? How many swipes do you have to go? Most people, when I ask them that question, the answer is 0 because it's on their home screen, or at the most it's 1. So what I'm recommending is that you move your school email icon at least 2 swipes. And then when you're swiping, That's your friction, just like me pausing at the Tupperware cupboard door. And when you're, instead of asking yourself, did I eat 3 Oreos today? You're going to just pause long enough to be like, do I really need to be checking email right now? And the answer is almost always no. Okay. So we're going to move it 2 swipes. And just as a point of fact, for coaching clients and Thrive Academy students, the ones who've done this, 85%, almost all of them report that within 2 weeks that they're checking email, they're guesstimating about 85% less often on weeknights and weekends, just by moving the icon, creating that little bit of friction. And then 2 more real quick about creating friction. And I'm harping on this because the email inbox is so addictive that we need to create multiple layers of friction. And so if you've probably heard me say this before, that's okay. I'm going to say it again. You go on your laptop. Let's say you have Chrome or Safari or Firefox or whatever at the bottom that is your operating system. You hover over Chrome, let's say. Right click, it says open new window. You open a new window. You go into that window and you open Gmail. And then you hover back over the Chrome logo at the bottom. And you click on the square that has all your tabs. And you go up there and you close Gmail. So now when you come back from somewhere, when you are in a meeting, you can't see your Gmail. And you can't see that little parentheses with that number that subconsciously you always know. And you know how much it's gone up. And that open loop stresses you out. The brain hates open loops. The fight or flight response taps you on the shoulder every time you see that little parentheses. So how about we hide the Gmail? But it's still really easy to find. You just put your cursor over that little arrow that moves around you, or hand, whatever you have on your screen. Hover over the logo at the bottom. Click on the square that is the new window. Work on email. And then when you're not working on email, then get out of there. It's just too easy when you have your tabs open. And one of those tabs is your email inbox at the top of your screen. And then finally, if you're finding that you're having a problem on weeknights and weekends, where even if you've turned off notifications and you've moved the icon 2 swipes, I've had to do this myself, is to put the phone out of reach. So you're sitting on the couch watching Netflix with your spouse or partner or your kids, let's say, or a football game or whatever it might be. If your phone is in your hand, you're probably going to be checking stuff for school. And so I physically had to put my phone out of reach. You've probably heard me say that I started charging my phone in the next room, in the bathroom right off of our bedroom, a couple of years ago. And it was a huge game changer because I couldn't stop checking email in the morning when I woke up before I said good morning to my wife. And then I'm checking stuff right before I go to bed, and now I can't fall asleep because I saw that email that's in, the subject line's in capital letters from that parent. You give a lot to that school. You don't have to give every minute of your weeknights, your weekends, and then not be able to fall asleep because you're in your email so much. Okay, and then the last 2 strategies, I'll just kind of go through them quickly, and then we'll get to how to get into classrooms more often. So strategy number 1 was create more friction. Strategy number 2 is schedule email times. And so you've probably heard me talk about how when you claim white space on your calendar, let's say you do that on Friday afternoons for the following week, that you pick a time in the morning, a half an hour, let's say, for after things settle down, after morning announcements, after arrival. Another good time is right after the lunch recess block and things kind of settle down in the school a little bit, early afternoon. And then again, kind of late afternoon, shortly before you leave to go home. And I told you before, people sometimes that I talk to, people that I coach, they're like, well, I got to be in there. Someone might need me. And I get that. But they have so many ways of getting in touch with you. it's nice to feel needed, but it's even nicer to feel productive. And it's really hard to feel productive when you're in your email inbox all day. So while you're trying to maintain the self-discipline to limit your email checking to and working on email to those 3 scheduled times, then that's where the friction will help while you build your self-discipline. And when you're not task switching, when you're actually working on just email, you're going to get through your emails way more quickly. And then you'll be the one defining urgency instead of what just happens to be at the top of your inbox when you click on the tab at the top of your screen. And then strategy number 3 is, I just called it don't feed the beast. So I want you to stop buying the lie that being super responsive to emails makes you a better leader. I want you to stop buying the lie that being super quick responsive to emails makes you a better leader. I don't believe that. So I want to give you a quick analogy. So let's say that there's a firefighter and the fire station gets a call that there's a fire across town at a house, and this is the firefighter who's also driving the fire truck. But as he's driving the truck, or she's driving the truck, they see different people as they're driving across town. They see different people who need help. So they stop, they help this person across the street. They stop, they help this person who's looking for their dog. They stop and they help this person who's run out of gas on the side of the road. They go a few more blocks and they stop and they help this person because it looks like there was a kickball game going on and this kid looks hurt, maybe has a sprained ankle or whatever. And the firefighters on the fire truck, they just keep stopping as they go across town to help people. Well, by the time they get to the house, they're not needed because the house is burned down. Hopefully no one was inside. That's ludicrous, right? The firefighters, you've seen them. The fire truck flies through town and it has the sirens and the everything, the lights are going and they're getting there as quickly as absolutely possible to put out the fire. What makes a really good firefighter is someone who's focused on what is the most important thing that I need to do right now, and they don't let other things distract them from that. And they get there quickly and they put out the fire. There are things in your life at school that are very, very important. Things that only you can do. But the reason that you never get to them is because you're stopping off along the way to help this person and help that person by responding to this email and this email and this email and this email. And I just think that it is a mark of you being a great leader if you're productive and you can keep your eyes on the important things and not get sucked into all of the urgent things. And this is one step towards doing that. And also with Don't Feed the Beast, if your teachers and the parents are used to quick replies, maybe you want to give them a heads up. But if you don't give them a heads up that, hey, I'm trying this new thing where I'm going to respond to email, blah, blah. If they're like, hey, did you see my email? You can be like, no, but I will check it later this morning or I'll check it later this afternoon. And that's accurate because you have scheduled times to check email. And then the last thing about Don't Feed the Beast is when you're responding to emails in the evening to teachers or to parents, schedule send for the next morning. If you're sending emails at 9 p.m., 10 p.m., you are sending the message to parents and staff that you are available 24/7. All right. So if you do those strategies, and I'm not saying any of them are easy, but I'm saying that they work. If you try to do those strategies, you will create margin in your day. And then with that margin, what are we going to do with it? We're going to get into classrooms more often. So why do you want to get into classrooms more often? Okay, well, you want to give support to the teachers. You want to be a visible leader. You want to know what's going on. You want to see the curriculum being implemented. You want to see whether this seat change for that student is helping with them being less distracted, all the things. But it also gives you joy, because when you're around happy kids doing interesting things, it gives you joy, and that's why you got into doing this in the first place. But like I've said before, there's joy on your campus. It's just not in your office. You will have more joy if you're getting into classrooms more often. But what is keeping you from doing that? One, I think your email inbox. The other, of course, is interruptions. And the biggest one is everyone else defining urgency for you. And if everyone else defines your tasks and your urgency for you, then you're not going to be able to get into classrooms, because you're going to be working on everyone else's priorities. So then let me give you 3 strategies to actually get into classrooms more often. Strategy number 1, make the vague into something specific. So if you're saying you want to get into classrooms more, that's kind of vague. That's kind of like me saying I should really eat more healthy. Or me saying I want to get into classrooms more is kind of vague, like me saying I should really spend more time with my family, or I should really exercise more. It's like, that's really vague. So be specific. I want to have this every week. I want to have 1 hour. I'm not saying this is what you're going to say. I'm just giving you an example. Every week, I'm going to have 1 hour during the week, total hour, where I'm popping into classrooms. And I'm going to have an hour a week where I'm in informal settings, like carpool, recess, lunch, class changes, whatever. Okay. Maybe some of those things happen with the informal stuff anyways, because you're doing carpool and you're doing, recess duty, or you're at recess every day. Okay, whatever. That's great. That's awesome. I love that. I did that myself so that I could get the joy from being around kids in informal settings. But these pop-ins, let's say that it's an hour a week, okay, just for the sake of conversation. Now, that could be 30 minutes on 2 different days, but you have to have a destination. It's like when you go to leave your house to go someplace you've never been before, and the GPS is going to ask you destination. You're not going to be vague. You're going to be super specific. You're going to enter an address. And so if you want this to happen, and it's vague saying, I want to get into classrooms more often, let's make that more specific and say, I want to get into classrooms this often, this much time per week. Okay, that's the place to start. And then we're going to move to number 2 strategy, which is schedule your good intentions. Okay, so on Friday afternoons, I'm proposing / pleading with you to, on Friday afternoons, to claim the white space in your calendar for the next week. And one of the things that you can claim is, let's say that it's 30 minutes on Tuesday and 30 minutes on Thursday where you're going to do pop-ins, and you put it into your calendar. Now, when Tuesday or Thursday rolls around, you have to make sure that you don't start negotiating with yourself and talk yourself out of doing it because other things are more important. If you equate the importance of pop-ins on your schedule twice a week or an hour, I did an hour on Wednesdays. If you equate that with meeting with the school's biggest donor, or you equate that with making sure you get to a doctor's appointment that took 6 months to get because it's a specialist, the kind of doctor's appointment that if your car breaks down on the way there, you call an Uber so that you can get to the doctor's appointment. If you treat pop-ins like that, you're going to do pop-ins and be in classrooms way more often. And then just real quick, it's like some that are listening are like, well, I don't even know, what am I looking for? Not what you're looking for. You know what to look for. But it can just be very informal. Let's start there. What I did, I told you I had Wednesdays for an hour. And so we had 5 1-hour classes. We had an 8-day schedule, which was kind of nuts. And it was a cascading schedule, which was also kind of nuts. But what that meant is that if I picked third period, let's say, on Wednesday, 8 weeks could go by before I saw the same class twice, the same kids in the same location twice. So I didn't have to move it all over the place. And I admit that was easy for me. But I don't think we need to start by focusing on, well, who and where and how often am I seeing the same kids doing the same thing. Like for most of us, we just need to get out there more. We want to get out there more. And so for me, I had 60 minutes. And with me being, I was in charge of 4th through 8th grade, intermediate and middle school. That's 5 grades. Every grade had 2 sections. That's 10 different locations where my kids are. We had a 4-story building. All of my students were always either on the 4th floor, the 3rd floor, or the 2nd floor. I would start on the 4th floor. I would find a room with kids, and I'd stay in there for 5 minutes. Sometimes I'm playing drums or a ukulele. Sometimes I'm asking them questions about the lab that they're doing. Sometimes I'm just sitting quietly in the back or standing, or whatever, okay? And now to pause, just a quick sidebar. When I started doing this, if you haven't done this in a long time, I preceded it with an email just giving teachers a heads up, because if you haven't done it in a long time and you appear in their doorway, they're going to think that you need a kid. Well, which kid do you need to talk to? So I preceded it with an email and just said, hey, I'm just going to start doing pop-ins, and I don't need you to do anything different. I don't need you to whatever. I just want to support you. I want to be, out there where you are. And quite frankly, by me sending out that email, now I'm also getting some accountability built in, because I've publicly stated that I'm going to start doing this. So you can do some mixture of all of the above, what works for you, but I'm just saying what worked for me. And so I would go in for 5 minutes and interact with the kids and the teacher, whatever, and then boom, I'm on to the next one and on to the next one. And so 5 minutes in every class, that's 50 minutes, throw in some travel time between classes. That was my 60 minutes. It was the best hour of my week. So much joy, so much awesomeness, and my teachers felt supported. And so if you don't know where to start, maybe you start with 30 minutes once a week. And once you start doing it and you get the joy from doing it, you'll probably then make it a priority to continue to do it. And then the final strategy, number 3, is to track it, but be kind to yourself. So what I did was I created a Google Doc and I put the dates on there, and then I would highlight it in green if I kept that appointment with myself and I did the pop-in, and I would highlight it in red if I didn't. And then I would just kind of track that, and I kept it in an obvious location for me on my little bulletin board that I could see. But on the weeks when I couldn't, because the day just went sideways or whatever, sometimes I would try to reschedule it to a different day. On the weeks when it just goes sideways on you and you just can't and you just didn't get to it, instead of beating yourself up, just be kind to yourself. Just pick it up again the next week and start over. When you were learning how to ride a bike, the first time you fell, you didn't just say, I don't know how to ride a bike, I'm just going to quit. You kept doing it, and you kept falling, and you kept going forward, and then one day all of a sudden everything clicked, and then you knew how to ride a bike. So when it comes to doing this thing, especially if this is something that you have wanted to do, but you wanted to figure out a way to do it that you can actually stick to it, then if you're tracking it, I think that helps with the accountability of yourself to get there. But there will be weeks when you just can't. And so you just have to be kind to yourself and just figure, okay, well, this week I fell off the bike. I'm just going to pick it up and just kind of start again. You don't have to make it into this judgment, shame, blame, catastrophizing, attaching all kinds of emotion to it. You're going to do the best that you can when you can, and then just keep plugging away. All right, so the big takeaways then are that in my experience over the past 3 years, 90% of private school leaders have 2 problems. Number 1, they wish they had more control over their inbox. And number 2, they wish they had more time to get into classrooms. So the 3 strategies to improve your relationship with your email inbox and to create some margin are: number 1, create friction; number 2, schedule your email times; and number 3, don't feed the beast. And then 3 strategies to actually get into classrooms more often. Number 1, make the vague into something specific. Number 2, schedule your good intentions. And then number 3, track it, but be kind to yourself. And your call to action this week is to just take 10 minutes, think about which is the lowest hanging fruit of anything that I talked about today on this episode, and then just take one action towards it, either with your email inbox or with getting into classrooms more often. Just another quick reminder, Parent Academy is there for you at theprivateschoolleader.com/parentacademy. I think it can be a real game changer for you. And another reminder that the 7 steps to having successful meetings with upset parents is a free PDF for you over at theprivateschoolleader.com/meeting. And if you get help from any of the episodes of this podcast, please share the link to the podcast with another leader that you know or a rising leader at your school. And I've been your host, Mark Minkus. I just want to say I appreciate you so much and all of your hard work. And I appreciate you taking some of your precious time out of your week to join me here today. And I'll see you right here next time on the Private School Leader Podcast. And until then, always remember to serve first, lead second, and make a difference.